Background art is a term that I almost consider a misnomer. Because while, yes, they may fill out the background, never does their focus or importance fade into the background. It's one of the most important elements anime creators have at their disposal to utterly dictate the vibe of a show, laying the foundation for the animators to do their work. Just as much as a great smear or Sakuga moment, a great background can take your breath away. Here are your nominees for Best Background Art of 2024.
The jury winner is The Diary of Ochibi-san. And the public winner is Frieren Beyond Journey's End.
So I can't say I'm necessarily particularly surprised at any of these. However, in our little pre-talk, you did express a little bit of surprise about Frieren of all things winning for the public. Can you explain a little about that?
Well, I mean, just looking at the nominees and everything, it won because it's public win, so I'm not surprised. But looking at the backgrounds itself, I don't think it really stands up. Really, I would have put it under a lot of other things. Like I would put Kaiju over this, Elusive Samurai over Frieren, Dandadan over Apothecary. I'd put a lot of things over it, but I guess public vote, so I'm not too surprised. But Ochibi-san winning the jury makes a lot of sense. It is Studio Pablo that does it, which they're great. They're like one of the current studios that still do background art in hand drawn most of the time. They did Dororo. They did Dororo 2019. So yeah, when it comes to background art, I'm not surprised they got the win. But Frieren, yeah, public.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna play devil's advocate for the public here because
Hmm.
I obviously in some of the production categories sometimes we question exactly what the public is going for, but
Yes.
so the art director for Frieren is Sawako Takagi, known for stuff like Cardcaptor Movie 2, done a lot of Bleach stuff. But I think
Yes.
Frieren, the whole premise of Frieren, right, is that we are following this band of adventurers after the major story has ended, right? Because Frieren has such a long life and she's kind of doing this like whimsical, melancholy remembrance of the past, right? So I
Hmm.
think in that aspect, the art direction actually reinforces the themes quite well because we literally see the places that Frieren has visited 80 years ago once again. So you're able to see this kind of contrast in between the flashbacks and the present time of these like ruined buildings and these like storied places that look like they were really important at one point, now kind of desolate and
Yeah.
broken down, which is like much like the theme of the whole show, like what it's all about, right?
Right.
And I think people don't realize exactly how much backgrounds assist in telling a kind of like narrative story behind the scenes. A lot of people
Yeah.
think, oh, it's just like this pretty setting and whatever. Like you said in your famous video, all about anime backgrounds.
Nice.
This is literally the world that our characters inhabit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big part of the world building. Yeah. Oh no, I was gonna say. I mean, I don't think like obviously it works with the show well. Obviously, I just mean more like on a specifically an aesthetic level. I just don't think it stands up even as like even if looking at it compared to like Elusive Samurai, like I would put that above it mainly because like I will say it's a bit unfair when something is like hand drawn, which is like elusive samurai's backgrounds are. I feel like that kind of gives it a real big up. But I don't know. I feel like just on an aesthetic level, I don't think it stands up to the other ones. But I won't deny that it obviously works really well in the context of its series. Yeah, of course, of course, of course.
Well, Jack, can you explain to us exactly what the jury thought of Frieren and maybe exactly why Diary of Ochibi-san kind of outperforms it in a background art metric?
Of course. So with Frieren, obviously you mentioned the journey aspect of the show, and that's where the backgrounds are really good because it's able to breathe life into the world of Frieren. So it does this by having things like different architecture wherever they go, so they're kind of like cells that they go on a journey. And then also the passage of time is a very big thing in Frieren, and then it shows it through going through a bunch of like seasons, showing the passage of time that way, or with like memories of the past with like the statues of Himmel. But the world is kind of like a very classic high fantasy world. So the IP said the style is kind of normal-ish. Like it's still very good style. Like it's a bunch of detail. Makes a really good scenery. But compared to Ochibi, which is a very like unique art style, which is really good with how it interacts with nature. Because like Ochibi is a show that's like about backgrounds. Like the
Hmm.
characters will interact with nature throughout, and then the nature just looks really beautiful with the way they do it. I think of it like different detailing depending on how far in the frame it is. And then it has like other cool things where it uses like a parallax effect to create like depth in the backgrounds.
Can you explain what parallax exactly is?
Basically, they have different background layers. Then they move the background layers at different speeds to kind of like imply depth, like a 3D effect kind of thing.
Oh, that's really interesting. I think that just goes to show kind of Japan's focus on setting and background and establishing a world, right? You know,
Yeah.
IP. There's a quote that really spoke to me in your video where you're talking about something that Miyazaki once said, right? Where he said, I can't remember the exact thing, but it was about the
Was it
sound
about
in between
ma?
claps.
The sound in
Yeah,
between
exactly.
claps. Yeah, 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 yeah. Ma. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that for our viewers?
I mean, it's been a while, but if I remember right, ma is what you said. It's the sound in between the claps. It's basically the quiet moments. It's a perfect example is when you're watching Spirited Away, and there's that huge long scene where it's just like Chihiro on the train, and it's just like a long like period of time, but nothing is really happening. They're just kind of riding the train, and you're just kind of taking the moment in. It's almost like a moment of smelling the flowers, taking a moment in, and that's what ma is. It's the space in between, the sound in between the claps. So it's that space, and that's what ma is, and that's what a lot of anime focuses on. Actually, more so than I feel like a lot of other media, especially like animated media. As I feel like other animated media, you watch it and it feels like they're like go 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 go, pacing's quick. They versus anime that feels like there's a lot of focus on nature and backgrounds. Not all anime, but a lot of it more so than I think other media.
I mean, just like that opportunity to like really sit with something, right? And like let
Yeah.
it kind of intertwine with your soul, that kind of
Yeah, yeah,
feeling.
yeah, yeah. I feel like that's what brings a lot of the whimsy, if anything. Like, especially in like a Ghibli film. Like, I feel like that's where you like really feel the most whimsy when you're watching one of those. Just like taking that moment in.
Would you say that Ochibi-san kind of has those moments of ma, as it were?
Oh, absolutely. I almost felt like I was watching like it brought me back to like world masterpiece theater kind of stuff, if that makes sense.
Jack, your thoughts?
Yeah, it definitely does. Like as I said, the show is all about its backgrounds and just kind of like how the characters interact with nature. So they're a big part of the show, and had going for like the seasons in Japan, a bunch of different plants, and showing like the beauty of nature, but also like the impermanence of it. So there's some moments
Mhm.
where it's kind of a regular slice of life show, but there's some moments where it gets kind of deep, and the backgrounds
Mm.
are a big part of that.
Now, IP, you brought up Elusive Samurai. This is one of the ones that I missed out on this time around. I was just wondering if you could explain a little bit about why the background speaks so much to you. I mean, from what I've seen, it's a lot of like, I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong. What I've seen of it are like these like really flashy indoor shots, if anything, of it's like kind of perspective of zooming around and being elusive, as it were. So I'm wondering how the
Mhm.
backgrounds play a part into that.
What I caught my eye ahead of time because I hadn't watched a lot of the anime for this year, and I had a friend hit me up and tell me about it because he knew I like anime backgrounds. He was explaining that like they're hand drawn, and I was like, okay, cool. That's always gonna get me, especially in recent times when that's not really a thing as much anymore. Yeah, and I checked it out and I really did enjoy it. I'm just a sucker for that kind of stuff, especially like that time period in hand drawn, especially like cherry blossom sections, which is like, I love that shit. I'm happy with the winner. I think Ochibi-san did deserve it more so than I think in my opinion, it is also the best out of these. Elusive Samurai, where it is, like, what is it? It's 4, right? Yeah, I feel like that's good. For me, if it wasn't Ochibi-san, it was either Elusive Samurai, Kaiju number 8. Kaiju number 8, I was giving a lot to, mainly because I'm also a big fan of the art director, Shinji Kimura. He's like the cityscape guy. I mean, I'll tell you guys this before, but like, he worked under Shinjiro Kobayashi, but he's been doing this since like Angel's Egg. So like immediately when I was watching Kaiju, I was like, no wait, this looks really good. And like if a cityscape looks really good, it's usually him. He did Blood Blockade Battlefront. He art directed the Tenkon Kincrete. That's like the guy when it comes to cities.
I think a running theme of all the categories this stream has been just the fact that it's been a stacked year. I don't know. I think 2024 was a great year for anime and for anime backgrounds. So anyone watching this, if you're really into backgrounds, if you want to discover a little bit more about the art directors and people behind all this stuff, really highly recommend checking any of these out, as well as Internet Pitstop's video on the subject.
Thank you.